Playing a tight aggressive strategy versus being tight but passive, and is Las Vegas dying? Let's talk about it. Today's guest is Jeremy from Color Up, and we're going to get into all of that. But first, how did you get into poker? You're a dice guy originally. What was that? What did that look like to go from dice to cards?
Well, I mean, obviously you see the poker rooms in the casinos, right? And so I've been at the dice game. I've had a YouTube channel for years and years, and it's a game of luck, right?
Yeah.
So as times progress, I'm like, I do know that, there's such thing as card counting and blackjack. And the other game is poker, that you can gain an edge, right?
Yeah.
And so I love the math of the game. And I'm, it just like, I ended up watching poker online, right? And I'm starting to get into it. I'm watching these tournaments and watching cash games and everything like that. I'm like, you know what? It's time for me to take the leap and find out what this game is all about. So it's really it.
So your original channel is pretty big. You've just started out with the new poker channel, and it's gaining. But you had kind of a cool mission or a goal when you set out. What was that?
Well, it might be. I mean, probably you guys are poker fans. This might be ridiculous to you guys. My goal is to be a poker pro in 900 days. So like a lot of the vlogs out there are, this is vlog 1, vlog 10, vlog 20. So mine goes by days. Like, so I think currently I'm on day 108, right? So okay. Time is clicking faster than I thought. But So what I mean, for me, I'm not quitting. I am actually a full-time YouTuber now. I have a couple channels. Craps is my biggest channel, but I'm not looking to and this is part of it, I'm finding how much time poker takes. So I'm not looking to play 40 hours a week poker and become a professional that way or a tournament player. So my goal is basically once I can achieve that, like a livable hourly rate, so I'm playing well.
Yeah.
And then combine it with whatever income that the poker YouTube channel makes. If I can say, hey, this would be like a livable wage, I've kind of achieved my goal. So that's my goal of becoming a pro poker player.
Hey, it's still a good goal, and
it's a goal.
Yeah,
we'll see how achievable it is.
Right on. So we met up through when you were getting ready to start your channel. Reached out through Discord, and we were talking for a while. And so here I am. I'm in Reno now to hang out. And
let me interrupt you.
Yeah,
so the reason I reached out to you is because I'm a YouTuber, so I do a lot of research on YouTube channels. So I went through, I don't know, there's 100, or more poker channels and vlogs, and I'm like, I found yours. I'm like, this guy is a high quality poker vlogger. The graphics are good. The content's good. I like the personality. And it's a relatively smaller channel. So I'm like, I know one of these days is going to be a big channel. So I reached out to you. I can't reach out to, Andrew Nemi or Brad Owen. And, I'm just a brand new starting channel. But I'm like, this guy, I'm going to hook my chain to and see where we can go. But anyway, I just
Color Up approved. Did you hear that?
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, man. Well, but it was cool. So ended up talking for a while. We're here, and we decided as we're talking through playing some sessions this weekend. You've been playing 1-2, right? That's kind of been your wheelhouse. But your starting point was with your schedule. You've been playing a lot of this kind of quiet, tight afternoon crowd.
Yeah. So just during the day, the casino has a nice like rake back program, double hour stuff. So I kind of take advantage of that. And it's just, they're tight guys. It's an early morning, 10 a.m. type stuff. And I've only been playing like once a week. So that's kind of where have been at until you came to town.
Yeah. And so we were talking and I said, hey, we got to play some late night session. And what were your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I was just getting comfortable with for lack of better words, retirement crowd, right? Mm-hmm. So to think of some guy 3-betting and 4-betting and just doing all kinds of stuff just makes me sweat.
So there were a lot of nerves coming in, but on the way to our first session, we're spending some time. We're kind of talking through being tight aggressive versus tight and passive and what that looks like. So we talked through some things like, we're going to be patient still, but when we get the cards, we're going to be willing to 3-bet. We're going to be willing to make big raises over a bunch of limps. Willing to continue on the flop, willing to put all our chips in when we get a big hand and not worry about what could be out there, the monsters under the bed, so to speak. So what was that like? Tell me about your results. You've had a good weekend.
Well, with these guys, I've been tight passives, which has not been working out for me. I've been losing sessions. I think my biggest win was maybe $60 because I'd wait for the good cards, and then anything would scare me off. And I would, I'd bet I'd make a continuation bet of $10 or something like this, right? So you said, wait for the good cards. When you have the good cards, open big, continuation, bigger, and put some pressure on them.
Yeah.
Because you have the good cards to start with, and they may not, especially with these newer crowds, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, maybe you just brought me some luck or something, but let's see, I played a session. So I still buy in for 200, which is a little small for the games, especially like at the Peppermill. We played here at the Peppermill, and I won $160 profit, so cash out $360. We went to the GSR. It was the night crowd at the GSR. And again, 160, exactly the same.
Nice.
And then let's see, last night, yesterday morning? It was yesterday.
Yesterday afternoon, yeah.
Yeah, so yesterday it was a big one. So I won almost 500 profit. So it was like 480 or something like that. So yeah, and it was just funny to see how people would keep calling you. And I'm like, what are you calling with? Because I got it. Sometimes I actually didn't. It was nice because I didn't always have it. But because I was aggressive and made a bigger continuation bet, they, folded or whatever.
Yeah.
I picked up good sized pots that way. Just kind of, I think I doubled up. Like yesterday, the big session, I doubled up once. But after that, it was just chipping away and ended up with, nearly $500 profit by just, it wasn't nothing huge. It was just taking these people's money little by little. So it was encouraging.
Cool.
And hopefully it's not just luck. I know part of it is luck, part of it's skill and decision.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm having a good run, I guess is what they call it.
Right. You'll get that positive variance, but the change in strategy obviously is paying off for you in a big way. So that's really cool. All right. So your pre-flop strategy hasn't changed too much as far as the cards you're playing, but when you get them, you're pushing a lot more. You're being more aggressive, and that's paying you off both when you have it and when you don't.
Right.
Like you said. On the way up here, we were just driving up here, and we were talking kind of through, your question was, well, now what do I do? Like if I'm card dead and my image changes, then how does that play? And I think it's an interesting question. This happened to me last night, and it didn't work for me, but it usually will work. If you sit there and fold for, say, 2 hours, people are assuming that you're playing on the tighter side, right? You're looking for aces and kings and queens and those things, especially if you sit down and you're card dead for the first significant amount of time. And so your question was kind of like, when do I sprinkle in the other stuff?
Right.
I think it's a good question. And if I was to try to give you guys like just a thought on where that is, if you don't just want to start playing junk, like you don't just want to pick up, say, like, 9-7 offsuit from middle position and be like, all right, this is the closest thing I've had to a good hand, let's go. But when you get to like maybe the button and you get some hands that are kind of the bottom parts of your range, and you decide to, hey, you know what? I'm going to choose to like 3-bet with a 7-8 suited because I've folded for 2 hours straight, and this person in front of me views me as a tight player. You have to know that the player is actually paying attention enough, and that they're going to recognize that you've been folding for 2 hours. But if you find that player and you 3-bet them, most people are going to be like, okay, he's folded for 2 hours. I'm not calling. Right, like that. Unless they have the goods, they're not calling you. So, I wouldn't get too out of line or too wild. But I tried this last night, and you'll get to see it on one of the vlog episodes.
Yeah, you described it to me. It's pretty good. Yeah. So I found I obviously got an image because this one time I don't think I had some great. I think it was Jack 10 suited or something, and won the hand with it. Didn't get anything on the flop, but just kept pressure going. And they're like, "Oh, he's got aces or something," right? Just how the hand played out.
Right.
And I don't show anything, but I guess that can work in your favor. But I guess it's part of. I guess that's what I got to learn is like when can I? Because luckily these 3 sessions that I've won in, I haven't been card dead. I've been, I've been involved here and there, right? I didn't have long times where I'm just folding everything. So I've just been having cards, luckily. But it'll be interesting when I don't get the cards, how that's going to play out. When I have to kind of make a move, I guess. But
Yeah, but I think
I still need to wait for the card, something to work with.
Yeah, patience is really going to play on your side, and it feels miserable to sit there and fold and fold and fold. But that Jack 4 offsuit and things like that, it's got to go. You can't decide, oh, it's been 2 hours, I just need to play.
Okay.
I definitely did that a little bit when I first started, just because you're like, well, I got to do something. These guys are all winning. I deserve to win too. But it tends to backfire when we press because we're like feeling like we're owed or we're due.
And that's part of the thing I'm learning about poker, and which is hard for me, is just the time commitment. Because I mean, you can't go in and play for an hour, right?
Yeah.
It's just not a thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's true.
Especially if you're not getting cards, so you're looking at longer sessions. So yeah.
And one of the things to think about too, like the only reason we open things, if you were to take the blinds away in a game, the only hand you should theoretically play, you should just fold until you get aces. Because you have no incentive. There's nothing to pick up by putting money into the pot. So if there were no blinds, essentially we would just all fold until we hit aces, right? And so by putting the blinds out there, it incentivizes us to get some money involved, get going. But we don't want to just like start pursuing it. It's only $2 that's in the pot, right? There's not enough to pick up for us to press really hard. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, that is one thing I've done too. Is so I think it's an internet thing where, because I have played some online, and usually, everyone I've watched on YouTube, right? This is how I learned how to play poker. I'm starting to read some books, but it's like your opening size like 3 times, right? So 1, 2, and I'm playing like pennies is, $6 or 6 cents or $6. I've been hitting the table, which is a good standard opening, I guess, for the math and for online. But in real casinos, they tend to open a little bigger, $10, $15 somewhere in there. And so, the $6 is usually not going to cut it. Because I didn't know what was happening when I was playing with the crowd, the morning crowd, I'd put in $6 and I'd still get 5 people in the pot. And I'm like, I thought that was supposed to work, right? But now I'm learning, like, well, what? It's not. If it's not working, I mean, it could work, I guess, on some tables, but you can't play with 5 players on the flop, so you have to adjust. So I'm seeing that, I guess.
And a lot of times you want to find a sizing that puts pressure, so you get some folds, but you're going to still get some calls from worse hands. You want to kind of find that balance, and if your table calls you every time, obviously you got to step up. I think a lot of times what happens is, like in a live game, people are showing up to a casino. This is their hobby. They want to gamble. They want to kind of like see flops and be a part of it. So your $6 is not a deterrent, and your $8 is not a deterrent. At 10, they start to think about it. At 12, they start to really go, okay, this is a little too much for my 7-9 offsuit or whatever. And so the larger you're making it, if they continue to call you, they're making a larger mistake, right? If you have, say, pocket
because I'm
kings,
just playing the premium hands,
you're playing premium hands, and they're choosing to show up with these lesser hands because they just are impatient. They don't want to wait. It's a bigger and bigger mistake the larger your open is. So if you try, as you guys are playing with that, just try to find a balance in that, where you go, okay, this is kind of the limit of what they'll overcall with garbage, and then fine tune into where that you get some respect, but not so much that no one ever calls you and you're overexposing yourself. If you always open to $20 in a 1-2 game, we're obviously overexposing ourselves. But
can I ask you? Some things I've said, they say it's real important to disguise all your play, and this may be more advanced, is to have that same opening. So if I figured out like it's always going to be 10, no matter whether I have aces or I have, king 10 suited, right? So I don't know if that's it. I was kind of just sticking in that range of like 10 to 15, following the crowd a little bit. But how important is it? Or like in the 1-2 game, and these are hobbyists or weekend guys, is it, they're not paying attention that, oh, he's always opening at 10. Is there a thing there, or? Well,
something that happened you won't see it on the vlogs, I didn't record it, but a player at the table at one point at 1-2 was opening to $10 consistently and suddenly opened to 35. Okay. So it's a pretty obvious sign that this person has found their aces, right? Whereas, if you go from, say, 10 to 12, not that you should look to change it, but if you make a small change like that, most people aren't going to recognize that you've made a small change. That said, I wouldn't push into a huge change on your bet sizes. I would try to kind of lock in on what your typical raises, and then you're just looking to add on for each limper in front. If you're out of position, I tend to bet a little bit more. If you're in position, you can go a little bit on the smaller side. So, for example, when you're playing this game, and maybe your standard open in a 1-2 would be like $10 or something along that after some trial and error. But you get around, it folds all the way to you, you're on the button. Maybe you make it $8. You can size down a little bit because you're expanding your range on the button. You don't have to go as big. You only got to get through 2 players. And so in those situations, I might size down slightly. When I'm early position, I will actually add a big blind just because you don't really want people playing behind you, right?
Right. Okay.
So there's some strategy that we talked through on the weekend and a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
And now the question that everyone wants to discuss and nobody wants to discuss, is Las Vegas dying? I'm in Reno for the first time right now.
Okay.
You told me that you just moved here. How long has it been? A year and a half?
Year and a half, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
And what are your thoughts? You've been a lot of places. Well, where have you been, first of all? Where have you lived?
Ohio, Florida, Texas, California, Colorado, kind of all around, yeah. And multiple cities in those states, too. So we move a lot. Yeah.
So you're like a national man of mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're here. You said this is one of your favorite places to be. Why is that? Tell me about that.
Well, there's certain things we've picked up through moving all those states. One was the beach. We've kind of let that go, and we've kind of fell in love with the mountains. Colorado is a big part of that, so we love skiing and hiking. Obviously, I'm involved in gambling, so that's kind of important. But nowadays, you can get that almost anywhere in the country,
Most
right?
places, yeah.
Vegas is still the place to gamble, right? But Nevada, here in Reno, it's high desert, so we got a high elevation, so we get very mild summers compared to Vegas. You know, it's 110 cooking. Here we're like at 90s, and in the night it'll cool down to in the 55s, and you need a sweater, right? Because it's just beautiful. Yeah. We do get a couple snows in the winter, but pretty mild. Although you came at a bad time where it's just absolutely freezing, but that's not normal. In the spring and fall's beautiful here. But did you ask about Reno specific? So that's kind of the climate. But I mean, it's a small. We visited it a few times. It's a small town feel. It's not huge, but it has all the amenities that you would want from a big city.
Yeah,
I guess it's a relatively big city.
Yeah.
But it just happens to have some casinos. It's not like Vegas where it's casinos and some suburbs around it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I could never live in Vegas. I love Vegas. I could never live there. So this is kind of like a perfect mix for our lifestyle, plus, kind of work related. There's a little airport here that works for us, because we do still travel, and it just kind of all those, it's like checks every box for us here.
Yeah, and yesterday we went and we drove. I got to see, you took me up to Tahoe and got to see the lake up there.
Tahoe,
Down, okay. Yeah.
South, but it's up and over the mountain.
Yeah, okay. But just gorgeous, like beautiful. My dad used to talk about skiing up here as a kid and all that, and so it was cool to actually see it, and just so impressive. Like, just beautiful area, so really neat. It's been fun to be here. Okay, so I've been going to Vegas for a long time, and I do really enjoy Vegas still. And I mean, you can see I got a Golden Knights hat on and everything. Like, it's a fun town. It's a neat place to be. But over the years, I've noticed it change quite a bit to where when I first started going, it was fairly affordable. Lots of there was free parking. The rooms were cheap. The food wasn't that bad. All that stuff. And over time, I've just noticed a change where it gets more and more expensive every time. The homeless problem seems to get a little worse, and I'm not big into the pot world, so that when I step outside and now that it's been legalized, the whole city smells like
it's like a big fog over the whole city.
Yeah, it's kind of just like this mixture of like dope and urine, and it's kind of not a great smell, kind of in your face, and hot garbage also. So when you're in the casinos, it's a nice place. It's great to meet up. There's always poker, so I do like Las Vegas. But I'm finding that when I'm here, the things that I don't like about Vegas don't exist here. But all the things I do like still pretty much seem to exist here. Maybe the walking distance between casinos, that's probably the biggest drawback.
So we have a couple downtown. 5 casinos downtown, and then we have like 4 of them that are just kind of scattered. So it's an Uber ride. They're all within 5 miles, but you're not walking to anything unless you do stick downtown. But so that part is a little different.
Yeah. I would say Las Vegas has its own beauty to it, but being out here, it's definitely another level. To me anyway, it feels like it really steps up to like, wow, this is gorgeous. Whereas Las Vegas is kind of, oh, this is unique, and there's some cool mountains in the
Vegas. Background. It's like every time I go, I've been so many times, and like you discover something around every corner, something cool or trendy or fun. And although the Reno casinos, they are pretty close to Vegas style casinos. They've got all the amenities. They're decorated, gorgeous, and stuff like that. And then you kind of have some local spots and stuff, which I haven't really taken you to those ones yet. But it does have what you need. Now the poker scene, is not up to the standards of Vegas. So there's one real popular room here. I think there's 4 or 5 rooms total. That is a big drawback if you're a poker guy. There is, nothing can compete with Vegas, right? So as far as how many rooms, but
right. And just from a competition level, I would say like when you show up to Vegas, lots of people know that tourists are coming. And they've moved there and they're playing professionally. So you can sit in a 2-5 game and you can play with all tourists, and it's a great game. And you can go back later that afternoon and it's all pros, and you can tell. And the game shifts, but around here, you can tell there's some very skilled players. But it doesn't feel like your level of competition is consistently bumped up as much, which isn't a bad thing to have good competition. It can make for some really fun games. But as just looking from like a profit standpoint, I think there's something to be said about showing up to Reno, having a fun game, and having it be maybe more potential for profit.
Yeah, so we're more of like a working class city. So and tourists, it's a little mix. So there are pros here. Which you probably, they probably work whenever the tourists are here. So we get a lot from Northern California that come in to play. So the weekends are probably, you call it juicy, right? The tourists come in, and then usually the evenings, you got all the city is made up of people who work, right? So 6, 7 o'clock, they're off work, they go play poker. So you have those kind of guys who are just playing for fun, and then you got the tourist mix with just a couple pros, because, you're a pro, right? You go to Vegas. So there are a couple sprinkled here, but for the most part, I think you found it's okay, right?
I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So as far as is Vegas dying? No, of course not. It's not. It's not actually dying. But I think it's losing ground to other places overall, where it's becoming more for the person who shows up as a tourist to see a show, to have an expensive steak dinner, and knows they're just going to pay a lot of money, and they're okay with that, and the sun and all that stuff. And the poker side and the gambling side seems to be kind of going, I don't want to say downhill too much. There's a lot of good things going on in Vegas, but I see some, like the beauty of showing up there and having a cheap trip where you just get to play a lot of poker. It doesn't really exist anymore, and that's unfortunate, but there's still a lot of good there.
Yeah, well, and then, I mean, everything's 6 to 5 blackjack, right? You got all the table minimums, like here in town, you 10, 15, right, or across the country.
Yeah.
And Vegas is like 25, 50, 100 for table games.
Yeah.
For me as a gambler, when I go to Vegas, I don't even go to the Strip anymore. It's just downtown, because downtown Vegas has got a little, it's a little more valuable, right?
Sure.
It's still kind of, because they have to compete, so a little more valuable. So I basically avoid the Strip at this point. It's a little wild down there, but that's kind of fun in doses. Like 4 days max for me in Vegas, and I'm done.
Sure.
There's just so much stimuli going on, but for me, even Vegas, for me, it's just downtown Vegas at this point, just because of the lack of value on the Strip. It just it's non-existent almost.
Yeah, I would agree.
The $4.95 or $4 or $5 water, and it's tough. $30-$40 burger. It's just.
I played a tournament down there. I won't say which casino, but I played a tournament.
Okay.
And I was on break on one of the levels. I went to like one of the little quick shop things and bought a power bar or something, and pulled out a $5 bill, assuming like, all right, I'm going to overpay for this. It'll be $5. I think it was like $8. And the guy said, "Welcome to adult Disneyland." And I just thought, oh, am I really going to pay $8 for a stupid power bar? But hey.
You got to.
Welcome to adult Disneyland. Yeah. Okay, so when you're in Vegas and let's talk the craps side of it.
Yeah.
Do you have a place you like to throw dice more than any other?
Well, because I'm a low roller, people who watch my channel know that there actually do exist $5 tables. They're Ellis Islands, they're Jerry's Nugget, they're off strip places, right? Or locals casinos. There's some 10s I'll play, and even on the edges like Tropicana, Sahara, on the very edges of the strips, right?
Sure.
But a lot of the tables they're like daytime. Usually how it works with craps is like the daytime, you'll have your lowest limit, and then nights and weekends, and they go up. So the lowest on the strip is like 25, and then on nights and weekends it'll be 50, 100. So in craps, it's a game where you got to make a few bets at it once. You don't have to, but that's kind of how it works. So $50 table, you've got $400 per hand or per roll basically at risk, and that could last 30 seconds. So I mean, to play that game, you're buying in for $5-10 grand for a session that may last an hour or two. It's completely different than poker. And then and because it's a game of chance, it's up to the dice gods whether you win or lose. It's not like you have any effect on the game. So that's how craps is. So there are places around town, but mostly I go downtown. You can get $10 tables during the day because I'll just play in the day and have enjoyment or do things at night because everything gets more expensive. But there is still some value. But that's how I look at it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks. This was fun. Tell everybody where they can find you. So you got multiple channels. So where should they look to find you if they want to connect with you?
Just Color Up. I think I have. Yeah, Color Up is my main channel, and it's all about craps. So if you're a big craps fan, and then Color Up Poker is now my new venture.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be like Potato Poker.
Right on. Well, thanks. This was fun, and thanks guys for watching. We'll see you next time.